And so we continue our program here. We'll be handing over now to Mr. Hassan Noor Sadi, who I believe is coming to us from Singapore. Hi, Mr. Hassan. We're looking forward to your presentation on Save the Children. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Jenny. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The COVID-19 pandemic has created two overarching global crises, one in public health and one financial. These two intersecting crises have combined to create a multidimensional societal emergency affecting the lives of millions of children and their families in myriad ways and on unprecedented scale. The pandemic first triggered an extraordinary public health crisis. Till today, there have been over 245 million cases and close to 5 million deaths. Health systems in many Asian countries have been overwhelmed, especially those with low level of state investment in public health. The various countermeasures that government imposed, including the closure of businesses, schools, the cultural spaces, as well as strict controls on public movement and air travel, have helped to save lives. But these measures also triggered a second global economic crisis, the worst recession since the Great Depression of 1930s. Families depend on informal livelihoods and small businesses have been most affected, but they have often been beyond the reach of societal safety nets, especially migrant informal workers and their families. Save the Children and UNICEF published an analysis in May 2020 revealing that without urgent action, the number of children living in poor households across low and middle income countries could increase by 15% or 86 million. Across our region, extraordinary efforts have been made to support education, businesses, and other vital activities, including by expanding operations online. However, these benefits have not been evenly distributed. Many households, especially from marginalized communities, have lacked access to the internet or state benefits, leaving many children isolated and impoverished. Thankfully, children face lower direct risks to their health from COVID-19, but they have suffered greatly in many other ways, and not just by losing family members and breadwinners. Children education has been affected badly in many Asian countries. Worldwide, school closures have affected more than 1.5 billion students. More than half of them are in Asia Pacific. We see many efforts to address this, including through greater use of digital technology. Education technology was on the rise even before COVID-19. It is now even more likely to become a permanent feature of the schooling system across our region. Learning through the internet can be an effective tool to ensure continuity of education, but the use of online education has exposed the digital divide across Asia and across the world. For many poorer and marginalized families, an internet connection is still considered a luxury. All the stresses and disruptions caused by pandemic have increased social and emotional pressures. This has contributed to rise in violence and abuse against children, especially girls. Financial pressures on their families also mean that many girls have not and may never return to school. This pandemic could undo years of progress that have been made to reduce level of child marriage across Asia Pacific. In countries suffering from political violence and conflict, such as Myanmar, attempts to promote peace, usually with little or no impact from civil society or affected communities, have run into familiar difficulties and deadlocks. This has endangered both vulnerable population and health workers trying to assist them, hindering disease control efforts, which ultimately affect all of us. We have also become more aware of connections between the health of the planet and the health of our societies and economies. Scientific studies increasingly show that our destruction of the natural environment, our damage to our climate, is disrupting ecosystem and wildlife habitats. SARS, MERS, Ebola, and now COVID-19 pandemic caused by viruses of animal origin have become more frequent and more damaging. This means that no recovery from this pandemic will be sustainable if we do not address the threats of future pandemics and climate crisis. Unfortunately, many national pandemic recovery plans are still investing in sector and activities such as coal production that increase such threats to our future. To aid that recovery, vaccines now offer us hope, a chance not only to reduce death and leave fewer children as orphans and breadwinners, but also to reduce the level of disruption to societies. With countries facing new waves of infections, there is an urgent need to roll out vaccination and increase vaccination rates among adults to manage the pandemic better and give children a chance to regain their childhood and more hopeful futures. By ensuring a high uptake of COVID-19 vaccines as well as COVID safe behavior remains a key challenge across Asia. The drivers of vaccine hesitancies are varied. Concerns about safety and side effects, misinformation, particularly on social media, negative stories, distrust of the governments, and popular misconceptions. But in crisis, there is also an opportunity to build back better, safer societies, and in an era of more frequent and damaging shocks. Whether it is strengthening public health system, making online education safer and more accessible, addressing poverty and social exclusion, tackling violence against children, or creating a greener, more sustainable economy, the pandemic represents a historic opportunity for a fresh start that Asia Pacific governments and societies must seize. To do this, we need a whole of society approach. First, we need to control the spread of disease, minimize loss of life, and avoid spiraling household poverty. Adequate resources should be allocated to public health, economic stimulus, and social safety nets, with a focus on most vulnerable and poor households. Children need effective support to continue distant learning and return to school safe when possible. It is also crucial for governments, businesses, and societies to implement reforms that not only ensure a robust recovery, but also limit both the risk and impact of future pandemics and other global disasters. For this ambitious agenda to succeed, we need a new social contract for the 21st century between governments and societies. The pandemics the pandemic has given us a license to change, but although the wheels of reforms must spin quickly, they do not need to be reinvented. Most of the frameworks to steer and enable those changes already exist. These include, in particular, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals, adopted by governments worldwide in September 2015, which sets out the 17 Sustainable Development Goals as well as commitments made under the 2015 Sustainable Paris Agreement on Climate Crisis, as well as the much stronger collective commitment we need to see at COP26 in the coming days. Save the Children marked its 100th birthday in the year before the pandemic struck. For a century, we have implemented humanitarian and development programs and conducted advocacy to improve the lives of children and their families. We also support and amplify the voices of young people and express their concerns to demand to people with power who make decisions that affect their lives. The recovery should also repair the damage that has been done by many children's lives and to address the many gaps and challenges that this pandemic has exposed. But unfortunately, there will be more shocks to come. In the face of growing threats from pandemics, governments, especially in low and middle income countries, should allocate an initial minimum of 5% of their GDPs to public health by 2030 to guarantee universal health coverage free at point of access. Government should also lay the foundation for a broader child-sensitive, shock-responsive program of benefits and essential services that alleviate poverty and improve societal resilience to future crises. They should bridge the digital divide to strengthen education and livelihoods. Investing in connectivity for all will strengthen educational access and continuity of the sustainable livelihoods, including for the most marginalized population. Governments should put ambitious and creative measures in place to ensure the boom in online education does not leave the most marginalized children behind. They should ensure that children without home internet access are capable, uh, have access and have capable devices that do not exclude them from educational opportunities. Governments should ensure effective support for children at risk of violence and abuse. The pandemic has exposed children to alarming levels of domestic abuse and violence, highlighting the need to strengthen protection systems for all children, especially girls. Government should put measures in place to ensure that girls are protected from negative coping strategies such as early marriages and do not miss out on education. In countries affected by conflict and violence, we need to increase support for more inclusive conflict prevention and peace building. Relevant stakeholders should actively support ceasefires and political negotiations, as well as increased technical, political, and financial support for the role of civil society, including children and youth, in preventing and resolving more effectively and sustainably. And we need to increase and maintain vaccine confidence and take up. For example, Save the Children has designed vaccine hesitancy program, which is called Activate, an adaptable, hackable health campaigning model to encourage vaccine acceptance. This will be done by addressing key vaccine hesitancies via fact-based, behavioral insights-driven approach using key social media channels supported by a health partnership with Facebook. All these solutions combined may sound expensive, but such investments will ultimately pay for themselves, and the alternatives will cost us a lot more. Healthier populations are more economically productive and less dependent on social services. Studies show that a green economic recovery would be better for jobs and growth. More resilient businesses and livelihoods can help minimize economic impact of disaster. Conflicts are expensive. Peace would free up resources. In the end, I would want to bring the focus on the climate change, where Save the Children is working with number of countries under its campaign, which is called Red Alert. And we are engaging youth in several countries, including Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Philippines, trying to mobilize public awareness and action on the climate crisis. Here is an example of their activities. On this occasion, addressing world leaders who attended the Leaders Climate Summit hosted by the US in April, last April.
Climate change isn't a problem, it's an emergency.
In Nepal, we are already losing our lives, homes, and livelihoods due to the disasters such as floods and landslides.
We are destroying the diversity of life on our planet. In many places, our agriculture and our fishing is unsustainable. Our industries are polluting the environment.
The economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic cannot just return us to normal.
We need a green COVID-19 recovery. A recovery that not only boosts the economy but also cuts greenhouse gas emissions helps vulnerable communities adapt, and help nature and wildlife recover.
Governments in developed countries have a moral responsibility to lead the way.
We must reach net zero emission before 2050. And net zero is not enough. We need real zero and negative emission to protecting our future.
The countries with the biggest greenhouse gas emissions must lead the way. We must switch faster to the renewable energy, and we must completely electrify energy use in our homes and transport.
And richer countries should also keep their promise of giving $100 billion a year to help the poorer countries. Poorer countries are the least contributor to this crisis, but they are the most affected by it.
Dear leaders,
We are young, but we are people and citizens too. We have a right to be heard.
We have a right to a safe and healthy future. Please don't take that away from us. Be a strong leader for us.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is very clear that this is the time to act, because if we don't, it could be too late. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hassan, thank you so much. Very important contextualizing there, particularly when it comes to our donations. Let me just remind you all, we do have a link for donations, contributions towards Save the Children Fund. It's right inside the chat box as has been posted by our organizer. Thank you for contributions already, and thank you for advanced ones coming in. Thank you, Mr. Hassan. So ladies and gentlemen, it is about lunchtime here in Brunei. We're halfway through our program. We shall return shortly with some coffee and conversation after this message from Standard Chartered Bank.
ASEAN is made up of 10 diverse markets, uniquely positioned at the heart of global trade routes. Home to a rapidly rising and affluent middle class, with one of the fastest growing digital landscapes, manufacturing hubs, and abundant natural resources. ASEAN's strong fundamentals are driving its growth and resilience. With our knowledge and insights on local markets, Standard Chartered can help you accelerate your growth and navigate the complexities of each market. As you expand across ASEAN, we can support you with end-to-end solutions, streamlining processes across multiple jurisdictions, making it more efficient for you. We are leading on the ASEAN regional connectivity to integrate trade and payments in the region. To support the growing cashless ecosystem, we've digitized our cash management. From virtual accounts to a wide range of APIs, we've optimized digitization for your transaction and reporting needs. We are investing in fintech solutions and building new business models, creating efficiencies and better experiences for your customers. When it comes to working across ASEAN's supply chains to finance your imports, exports, or inventory, and raising capital for your business, our award-winning capital market solutions are customized to your needs. As you expand outside your home market, our dynamic hedging offering helps your treasury team manage volatility, ensure price consistency, and deliver competitive margins. We're committed to promoting economic and social development in our markets. Our value and philosophy are embedded across our banking products and practices. With $75 billion committed towards sustainable development goals, we can help your business make a positive impact. ASEAN's future is bright. As your trusted banking partner, we are committed to supporting your growth ambitions, co-creating innovative and winning solutions with you. We are Standard Chartered. We are here for good.